plan. I say lob it to Ryan Perez and the paint off a couple of screens.
Esquivel to Garcia. Off the deflection. Los Fresnos comes back and wins. Now Santa Maria will put up a three. Bang! Santa Maria!
There's Warner. Here comes a headed jam. Counted for two. Field. Adios! And the Falcons win on a walk-off.
Well, this is Talkin Sports here on Stockage is we'll be talking a little bit about NHL today because of course the playoffs start. They have none other than the Women's College World Series this weekend, I should say, is the best of three. So you have Wednesday night back to see who will come home with up this year. Of course, we land ISD, Santa Rosa to ball team, schools that don't get to parts different district for football to play in, so they play against the La Villa. Is pretty fun, very soon. So meanwhile, their match against a top team. Yours truly was, of course, behind the mic, getting to call and cover. So of course you're starting to lay Alvarez. So of course you're Emmanuel Axel Manels 11. Your Sanchez. Also no Corey Lundin in that match, due to personal reasons that we cannot get into, but anyways, he was not a part of the, as well as Vicente Alvarez got to also play in the midfield yesterday, and so that was very fun. And so, just a pretty interesting match in itself. Once again, when you kind of up very soon, because it was completely either dominant. It was one win. This was what the stats kind of looked like at halftime, and this was what the stats kind of looked like at halftime, and this was a very interesting first half. In general, as Corinthians was able to, Vicente Alvarez was able to have an opportunity, goes inside the box and gets tripped up. And sure enough, the referee awards a penalty, and just like that, an opportunity for Hargreaves to equalize, as he was the one that ended up taking it from the penalty spot to be exact. Corner back then, and it went one goal each. 11 for this field with Joseph, another defender, Juan Cortez, Victor Cardozo, and Angel Arzate to round out, of course, the starting 11. Manjar to be exact. And then, of course, we named the starting 11 and all of that for lets in a goal, makes one save in the first 45 minutes, with Corinthians of San Antonio having 5 shots. And so it was a very evenly matched San Antonio for an opening. Zach Hargreaves, of course, from the penalty spot, able to put it away, but not after putting it in the back of the net. That was in the 52 minute mark, to be exact, aka the 23rd minute. That was pretty interesting. In all went free kick from the left hand. That's how it set 0-0, then 1-1 your sides. Live on that force 2-way for a second goal, but they did have chance after chance, and sure enough, another set piece opportunity from off a bit of a almost scissor kick in a way, just able to lay his foot out, his right boot out, to redirect it in the back of the net. Vicente Alvarez late in that and just could not put it away in the back. Looking at it, there were that happen this side yet. This is conference for the league for clubs, and we will tell you exactly where this team is in the conference right now. In the Texas Conference, the standings are United FC. They've played 3 matches. They've won 2. They've drawn 1. They've lost none. Then 4 FC. That is 4th Central Dallas FC. That was who the RGV Red Crowns beat for their first ever home victory, first ever win. 6, but they've had opportunities to climb their way back, and now, of course, they have an opportunity to climb their. But here's the difference, too. What does that mean? Well, of course, scored 1 with that 1 point and losing 2-1 and making their goal differential still -2. And the only reason why they have that -2 goal differential, we talked about it earlier, they played against none other than Corinthians FC of San Antonio in their first match and lost 2-0 at San Antonio Christian, where they played the match in San Antonio. So it's pretty interesting indeed. It's a pretty interesting, not too long ago, especially yesterday. Now, apparently, are able to have a 0 goal differential. That's the whole entire reason why they are ahead. That's the whole entire reason why they are ahead of the RGV Red Crowns in the standings. So if you look at it that way, and well, you're looking at a win on the road, able to get, I would say, 2 draws. I wouldn't beaten. Probably a draw against FC Dallas U23s. Then you're looking at them coming away from this road trip with 7 points here at Luke Fruia Buick GMC and Cadillac. Fruia Buick GMC and Cadillac, of course, the name.
Elevation 84.
Are you looking for a new place on South Padre Island? How about Starney's Hot Dogs and more? These dogs are delicious, and they're made the way you want to order.
On Sunny Glen and the services we offer, please visit us at www.sunnyglen.org.
South Padre Island. Enjoy endless activities for all ages. Then dance the night away with live music, savor fresh seafood, and discover unique food trucks and shop our charming boutiques. What are you waiting for? Escape the everyday at South Padre Island.
Sherryland ISD, a nationally recognized district focusing on quality and rigorous instruction where every child is immersed in a culture of academic success. Sherryland ISD, excellence is our tradition.
Training programs, all at the most affordable cost in the Rio Grande Valley. Transfer your TSC credits to a university or start a new career, like Kat Gomez, who graduated from TSC and is now patrolling the streets of Brownsville and serving her community. Register now at tsc.edu/register and study local at Texas Southmost College.
Back live again once again. Check out Luke Fruia. Get you once again. Next week is a special show. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to be media days for the Brownsville ISD schools. Of course, all these teams, they want to make the playoffs. There's only 4 teams from each district that will make the playoffs in general. So, and of course, some of them being in 6A, some of them being in 5A. Always exciting, and we'll see how this next season prevails for these Brownsville ISD football schools. Again, kickoff days, the end of August, 70 or so days and plus days again. Just thought I would, of course, advertise next week special show at Luke Fruia. So, going back to, of course, the RGV, Juan Carlos Alvarez and one of our defenders make it to the team of the week. And then the next week was the same deal with Vicente Alvarez making it, make the team out of Central Seed. Adric Rosato, midfielder out of Central Dallas FC. Juan Cortez, midfielder out of Corinthians FC of San Antonio. Ariel Cardoso, out of Cardozo, check that, out of defender out of Central Dallas FC, and then defender out of Central Dallas FC, and then late, even if some of them were around his team. So for did not save the PK from the spot that was by none other than Zach Hargreaves. That's a whole reason why Hargreaves was able to also make the like I mentioned, Isaid Gomez, of course, he gets player of the match with another midfield, or team of the week, I should say. The player of the match for the match was Zach Hargreaves. So, just to kind of put that out there. A week and getting better at move them and the hardest schedule, or the hardest part of the schedule is gone per se, is over. And so the FC, to be exact, Central team as well, which would be the next. The RGV Red winning all their games, they get the 9 points plus the 3. You enter into another big week with 12 points before you, of course, the fun team. Before this move on to our next topic was something so interesting is getting to, of course, talk to the players, getting to talk to the coach after the match. It seemed like they had the possession. They seemed like they were the team that could defend their home turf, and just could not against the top team. That's why Corinthians FC of San Antonio are that top team. But here's the best thing that I could say. Crowds frustrated that they will be able to get one as a unit and have that trust in each other that, look, we're going to do better. And that was one thing that I also picked up from yesterday's interview with Vicente Alvarez, being able to, of course, just learn more about his career and all that crazy, awesome stuff. We'll take a quick break. We may either go into... Stay tuned.
Specializing in accessories with top-of-the-line products to bring that special look to your truck in a professional way. Lifts, wheels, and tires, with financing available too.
My son Leo just graduated from high school, but also with his associate degree from Texas Southmost College at no cost at all. Not having that financial burden was so helpful to our family. That's 2 years we did not have to pay for.
All of my TSC credits transferred to UTRGV, and I am so grateful to go into my major debt-free.
At Marine Military Academy, we educate those who dare to achieve. Those eager to control their future before it controls them. Those who can follow a path so they can eventually make their own. To MMA, forging tomorrow's leaders.
South Padre Island. Enjoy endless activities for all ages. Then dance the night away with live music, savor fresh seafood, and discover unique food trucks and shop our charming boutiques. What are you waiting for? Escape the everyday at South Padre Island.
Graduation time. Time to make some decisions. What's next? Can I afford to continue my education? What are my options? At Brownsville ISD Career and Technical Education, you can graduate from high school with a certificate and or license ready to go to work. Debt-free. We have a wide range of programs for every student ranging from audiovisual, law enforcement, STEM robotics, electrical, welding, pharmacy, patient care tech, and many more to choose from. That's why Brownsville ISD is the best choice.
Back live we go once again here. So very special little pre-course football stays before NFL. Football does a week after college ball, so very exciting. Once again, Central Texas Coyotes FC. That points. Now moving on really quickly, of course, as well. Of course, this weekend is a little bit of race week, and what does that mean in Ohio to be exact is where it is because a little bit of race week, and what does that mean in Ohio to be exact is where it is because of just the, of course, 4-hour race. You have, of course, the Michelin Pilot Challenge, and then, of course, the VP Racing Fuels Sports Car Challenge. GTDX class, or just known as the GT3's GTD. And then with the LMP3s added to it is absolutely spectacular, absolutely perfect. Just, you have to love it. And so last podium last time, which was all, she will, of course, head out to a track that she is not necessarily 24 hours after that, of course. Then you also, on top of that, the Nürburgring, Germany to Spa to Le Mans, France. Just which is, well, Luke Fruia, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac. Guess what? Cadillac, they're in, so they will be in Le Mans. They will be in Detroit, so they will be in Le Mans. They will be in Detroit in the IMSA. Wayne Taylor Racing, of course, you want to win, which is always exciting. But then, of course, the regular GT3 cars, well, it's always a fun time indeed. So, on right now, as of course you'd expect, one of the cool things, though, going on tonight will be, well, the Women's College World Series, Championship Series, to be exact, in Oklahoma City, which will be hosting something very soon as well. But in Oklahoma City with that, of course, you have the knocking off of Oklahoma to be there, and so that's going to be a fun tech run on, of course, the finals of that series. And then, of course, we'll have a couple of games already been played in the NHL Stanley Cup. Naming just, it's your rematch from last year. You have the Edmonton Oilers taking on the Florida Panthers. The Edmonton Oilers coming off of a big season. It's so funny because I always think back to the start of their season in about July, or not July, but around October. And notice, with the biggest thing that happens, they start off so slow, and they don't have the best record. The Edmonton Oilers don't. But then all of a sudden, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, everybody, they just start to focus in. And right as you get to kind of the All-Star break, the break that they have, boom. You have none other than a victory, a consistent run of form from the Edmonton Oilers. It's the same that goes with the Florida Panthers, although the Florida Panthers, they look like the strongest team from really the get-go. And were able to, of course, win the, I believe, President's Trophy, and so that was big in general. So that was something, of course, interesting to see that Florida Panthers, this is the crazy fun fact about it. This is their third straight time to make it to the Stanley Cup Finals. That first time they did, they played against the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And for the Las Vegas Golden Knights, that was a victory, a Stanley Cup championship for the Golden Knights in 2023. They ended up winning it all. The best part was it was during the World Series of Poker, closer to, of course, the end. The main event had, I believe, been done and dusted at that point, but everyone stopped what they were doing for a minute and watched the end of it, one of the matches, or one of the games, so that was pretty cool. In 2023, now 2024, of course, we're talking about last year, it was the Florida Panthers versus the Edmonton Oilers, and the Edmonton Oilers ended up losing in 7 games. They came back and made it interesting, but just the Florida Panthers were too much, and they won their Stanley Cup. And so that was 2 straight years, of course. And there's an interesting thing about it, and so funny. So normally, when you win the Eastern or Western Conference Finals, you get awarded a trophy. The team does, and there are superstitions where you should not normally touch that trophy. So teams normally don't touch the trophy. The Edmonton Oilers last year did not touch the trophy. Well, they lost to the same goes. They lost to the Florida Panthers the first year when they played the Las Vegas when they won the Eastern Conference Finals. They touched that trophy and lost to the Las Vegas Golden Knights in the finals. Well, then the next year they didn't touch the trophy, and this year they didn't touch the trophy again because they were thinking same karma in a way. And so it's just fun. The little superstitions in sports, especially in hockey, are just brilliant. They're absolutely just a brilliant thing to always have. And so much fun for that. I'm looking forward to it because it should be a phenomenal championship. You have Connor McDavid taking on Matthew Tkachuk. I don't know if you all remember back in February, back when I was, of course, here, one of the things that was going on at the time was the 4 nations. Instead of the All-Star break, that's what we had. National teams, the 4 best national teams, really, in my eyes, for hockey. USA, Canada, Sweden, and Finland. Those were your 4. And so it was so much fun because you had Brady Tkachuk with Matthew Tkachuk, the Tkachuk brothers to be exact, and it was USA, and it was this big rivalry. And then you had Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, all these players, Sidney Crosby as well on that team, and so for the Canadian national team. And so they met in the finals of that tournament, and Canada ended up winning. Connor McDavid scores the overtime winner to, win it. And so that was just something that was so much fun to watch, in my eyes. So, very, very good stuff. And so there's a rivalry is what I'm trying to say for Matthew and Connor. Matthew Tkachuk and Connor McDavid don't necessarily love each other for sure. And so Matthew Tkachuk looking to try and get a Stanley Cup and hoist it once again. If I'm not mistaken, he was on the team last year, now on the team this year, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just, it's going to be very, very fun for this year. I don't know who's going to really take it. I want, of course, the Florida Panthers to take it because I just want that drought for Canada in the Stanley Cup to stay that way for a bit. My team, of course, are the Vancouver Canucks. Unfortunately, this year, a team that was favored to make it to the Western Conference Finals or potentially have a chance at the shot at the Western Conference Finals did not end up happening. And so you look back at that, and that's why I want the first team to win the Stanley Cup since, gosh, forever. I think from the 80s or something like that, to be the Vancouver Canucks, and that would be their first ever Stanley Cup championship, their first ever Stanley Cup win, of course. And so their biggest rivals being the Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid, and of course I always go back to October when they played them for the first time in the series, and there was a cross-check gone horribly wrong that Connor McDavid decided to do, and he only got suspended for a match, for a game. So it was one of those situations where I don't like him that much. But I do, but in that whole span of, yes, it's a rivalry, but I know how amazing Connor McDavid is. I know how amazing this team is, and that's why. For the Florida Panthers, I also know how amazing their team is. The Panthers are absolutely outstanding, and they've made it to the Stanley Cup Finals for a reason. They didn't necessarily have, of course, the toughest road, but same goes for the Edmonton Oilers. Didn't have the hardest road to get to the Stanley Cup. That's what happens when you're normally the 1 seed or close to it. They played Dallas and absolutely destroyed Dallas, and that was, of course, the Edmonton Oilers. Florida Panthers absolutely destroyed the Canes, the Hurricanes. So just one of those situations in general, and I'm fine with it. It's not that big of a deal. Meanwhile, of course, that's, of course, your NHL playoff update and where we stand. Now for the NBA, which is always fun because the NBA has something pretty interesting. Something that the NBA, I think, were very afraid of. Not at the start of the season, but as the playoffs progressed. Oklahoma City Thunder taking on the Pacers. The New York Knicks had an opportunity to make it to the championship, but could not close the gap and did end up choking the first game away to take the Game 1 lead. I think if they end up winning that Game 1, we're looking at the Knicks probably going to the NBA Finals for the first time in forever. But that's not the case. That's not the case at all. Instead, it's going to be the Pacers and the OKC Thunder, which, to be fair, it's not the largest markets for either side. Because for not the Edmonton, but just for, in general, the Pacers, they are in Indianapolis. That is their bread and butter. It is basketball, but when you think of the NBA, you think of Boston, you think of New York again. Sometimes you think of the San Antonio Spurs, but the bit larger markets is what I'm trying to get at. So it's going to be a smaller market. I don't know how well the finals is going to do just on TV ratings alone, but I think it's going to be a very fun one. And honestly, this is the first time that I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to watch the NBA Finals like I used to as a kid, because for some strange reason, this playoffs were fun to watch. It might have been thanks to a friend of mine, but in general, it's just like you don't have one team dominating. The Golden State Warriors were out. Of course, San Antonio Spurs haven't been good for a while, but then the teams weren't aided. And so that's, kind of interesting in general. And I don't know. It's kind of cool. Anyways, we'll take a quick break. When we return, we're going to close out the show and we'll go from there. Again, I'll advertise one more time for next week's show, but other than that, we'll take a quick little break, and when we return, we will close out the show. Stay tuned.
Fiber, this is our home. Take a look at what we do.
The standard of excellence has always been Cadillac, so be iconic and drive one. Fruia Cadillac, Brownsville, Texas.
I'm the new athletic director here. I started here 13 years ago, and 13 years ago, our juniors and seniors were in first grade and kindergarten. As they grew through their lower elementaries, I taught them in third, fourth, and fifth grade. And now, I've coached them their freshman year, their junior year, their sophomore years, and even this year, their senior year. That's one of the pluses here at our school. We're such a close-knit family type of community. You go to big schools where kids might just be a number. Here in San Perlita, kids have a name.
Back live once again here as we close out the show. We talked about the RGV Red Crowns. We talked, of course, about a little bit more professional sports, but one more thing that, of course, we need to mention. Join us next week for a special show, as, of course, it's going to be media days for all EBISD football schools from here, which will be very fun. From Luke Fruia, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac. If you're in the market for a new car, of course, come check out Buick, GMC, Luke Fruia, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac here in Brownsville, Texas. Always a fun show, which is just fantastic. And so, of course, right at the end of this show, so excited for next week. And talking, of course, we will still talk a little bit of Red Crown soccer because they will still have a match this weekend. Again, this time on the road, unfortunately, but it will be a good turnout. And then next week, it's going to be fun as they go on the road for 2 straight matches as well. So, again, hoping for a good result from them. But again, join us next week for a special Luke Fruia, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac show here as well. We'll probably be able to get to talk to some coaches and get to talk to some players. But again, we'll see, because no one's sure on that, or at least I'm not sure on that. But it should still be a good one. I should be here being the one to cover, but we'll see if Joe Boyne doesn't want to hop in and talk, which we might, and which might end up happening. Who knows? Join us again to see who joins the show this next week, if anyone. And it's going to be a little chaotic, but it's going to be perfect. And in the end, because again, we're getting you set for the next season, the next football season, with the Rio Sports Live Network magazine. All 68 schools in there, and from every single part of the valley. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So we cannot wait for football season. The Upper Valley, so all that. So I've been Jacob Young. This has been a Real Sports Live presentation, and until next time, we will see you all very